Welcome. Today we're jumping straight into a single explosive day in history.
June 16th, 1976.
Exactly. A day when thousands of students in South Africa, many of them, just 12 or 13 years old,
Right, the same age as many of you listening.
and they took to the streets to confront one of the most powerful and, frankly, ruthless governments in the world.
All for a simple goal.
The right to learn without being oppressed. So our mission today is to unhack the system they were fighting against
Look at why education became that final breaking point.
and see how their incredible bravery really did change the future of an entire country.
To even begin to understand the uprising, you have to start with the foundation. You have to start with apartheid.
Apartheid. The word itself means apartness in Afrikaans, but it's so much more than just segregation, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It was a complete official government policy of racial separation.
Put in place in 1948 by the National Party.
Right. And its goal wasn't just to keep people separate. It was to create a legal system that made sure the white minority held all the political power.
And all the country's wealth.
Pretty much, yes. The entire structure was built on that idea.
So for Black South Africans, this meant they were basically treated like foreigners in their own homeland.
Precisely. They had very few political rights, and the system dictated, every single aspect of their daily lives.
And it was meticulously enforced.
Incredibly so. Think about public places, parks, beaches, hospitals, buses. All of it was strictly divided by race.
And they were the identity documents.
The passbooks. Every Black citizen had to carry one, stating their racial classification at all times.
And if you didn't have your papers.
You were arrested. On the spot. It was a tool of constant control.
And the place where all this pressure was most concentrated was probably Soweto.
Definitely. Soweto, which stands for South Western Townships.
It was this huge urban area built just outside Johannesburg.
Built specifically to house the Black labor force. Millions of people lived there, often in these small identical houses. Life was designed to be hard.
We're talking about areas where basic services were just ignored on purpose.
Yes.
Right.
That's right. For so many families, even in the mid-20th century, their homes didn't have reliable electricity or even running water.
And people had to travel huge distances just to get to work in the white parts of the city.
Hours every single day. But here's the crucial thing about Soweto. Despite all that hardship, that shared experience of injustice, it became this massive hub for culture, for music, and most importantly,
For political resistance.
exactly. A new, fearless generation was growing up right there.
Which brings us to the specific weapon the government used to maintain this system. Education. Let's talk about the Bantu Education Act.
Of 1953. Yeah, this law is just a perfect example of oppression designed for economic control.
It wasn't about actually educating people.
Not at all. It was about creating a permanent supply of unskilled labor. The men who designed the law, they said it openly. They said Black students should only be taught what they needed for manual jobs.
You were literally limiting the ambition of an entire generation by law.
By design. So inside the classroom, what that looked like was, well, the funding was a joke.
Dramatically lower than for white schools.
Oh, worlds apart, sometimes 10, 15 times less. So you have these classrooms just crammed with students.
I've read numbers like 50 or more students for a single teacher.
Easily. And they lacked everything. Books, desks, basic supplies.
And the curriculum itself was designed to limit them.
Absolutely. The focus was just on basic skills. You weren't going to find advanced science or critical literature or complex math in these schools.
The message was clear.
Mm.
This is the role we have planned for you, and you don't need anything more.
And that system created decades of anger. But the final spark, the thing that was just intolerable, it was about language.
The Decree of 1974.
That was the tipping point. The government ruled that half of all subjects in secondary school,
The hard subjects, like math and social studies.
exactly, they all had to be taught in Afrikaans.
And for the students, Afrikaans wasn't just a language. It was a language of the ruling party. They called it the language of the oppressor.
It was a direct attack on their future. Imagine trying to understand geometry or history when your teacher barely speaks the language it's being taught in, and you don't either.
It makes it impossible to learn.
It was designed to make them fail. It was closing off any last chance they had for higher education or skilled jobs.
So all that anger, all that frustration, it had to go somewhere. And it did on June 16th, 1976.
The students just decided, that's it. We've had enough.
So that morning, thousands of them, mostly teenagers, gathered for a march.
A planned, peaceful demonstration. The goal was to march to the Orlando Stadium in Soweto and protest this African's policy.
And they were organized, right? This wasn't just a random crowd.
Very organized under groups like the South African Students Movement. The energy was, it was hopeful, defiant. They had these handmade signs.
Away with Africans.
Things like that, yes. But that defiant energy ran straight into state power.
As the march moved through the streets, they were met by a line of police officers.
A large group of them blocking the road. And they ordered the students to disperse.
When the students refused to turn back, things escalated. Fast.
The police fired tear gas directly into the crowd.
Into a crowd of children.
And some students reacted by throwing stones, rocks, whatever they could find. And that's when the police opened fire.
Not with rubber bullets.
No, with live ammunition on unarmed students.
And the tragedy of that whole moment was captured in one single devastating image. We have to talk about Hector Peterson.
He was just 13 years old. He was one of the first to be killed.
And that famous photograph.
It's heartbreaking. It shows his body being carried by another student with his sister running alongside them, screaming.
That picture went global.
And it changed everything. It was undeniable proof. The world could now see police officers shooting school children over a language class. It turned a local protest into an international scandal.
So the government couldn't just sweep this under the rug. What was the immediate effect across the country?
The uprising it exploded. News of the shootings in Soweto sparked furious protests in other townships in almost every major city.
So it was no longer about education.
Not anymore. It became a full-scale national revolt against the entire apartheid system, and it was being led by the youth.
And did others join in?
Oh, yes. The momentum was huge. Workers, many of them the parents of these students, they joined in by going on strike.
Which hits the economy.
Exactly. When the factories and mines stop, the government feels it.
And their response was just more force.
More brutality. Hundreds of people were killed over the next year, thousands arrested. But they learned something.
What's that?
They could kill students, but they couldn't kill the movement. They had completely underestimated the political power of their own young people.
And that brutality, seen by the whole world, is what finally triggered a real international response.
The world reacted with horror. The United Nations condemned the government, and then came the real pressure. Isolation.
Starting with an arms embargo.
Right. No more weapons could be sold to South Africa. For a government relying on military force to control its people, that was huge.
And then came the cultural pressure, which we sometimes forget about.
The sports boycotts, they were massive. Sports teams from all over the world refused to play against South African teams.
That's a huge psychological blow.
It made them feel like outcasts on the world stage. But the biggest blow was economic. The sanctions.
So for our listeners, what did that actually mean for the country?
It meant that major international banks stopped lending them money. Big companies stopped doing business there. It was devastating for their economy. It caused massive inflation, unemployment.
This cost of maintaining apartheid just kept going up.
Exactly. It was becoming financially unsustainable. The sanctions were isolating the white minority from the very global economy they depended on.
And all this time, there's the African National Congress, the ANC. Their leader, Nelson Mandela, is in prison.
Right. The Soweto Uprising was a massive boost for the ANC. Even though they were banned operating underground, suddenly thousands of these young, energized activists started joining them.
So it gave the movement new life.
New muscle, new leadership. It helped them keep the fight going, both inside the country and out, making sure the world never looked away.
But the fight was far from over. The 1980s were incredibly tense. How did the government try to regain control?
They moved toward absolute authoritarianism. They declared a national state of emergency over and over again.
And what did that mean legally?
It gave the police and the military almost unlimited power. They could patrol the streets, arrest anyone without a warrant, and hold them in jail indefinitely without a trial.
They were trying to crush any form of organization.
Completely. But it didn't work. The citizens just refused to be broken.
So the resistance continued.
Absolutely. The townships remained these active hubs of resistance. People organized consumer boycotts, refusing to buy from businesses that supported the system. The internal pressure just never let up.
So the government was fighting a battle on two fronts.
Exactly. The cost of repression at home was bankrupting the country, and the sanctions were isolating them from the entire world. The system was breaking.
So when did that tide finally turn for good?
By the late 1980s, it was just clear that apartheid was unworkable. The combination of internal resistance and international pressure was just too much.
Which leads us to those huge historical moments.
In 1990, the government finally gave in. They lifted the ban on the ANC, and of course, they released Nelson Mandela from prison after 27 years.
And that started the negotiations.
Years of very difficult, intense negotiations to basically dismantle the entire legal framework of apartheid.
To rewrite the laws of a country? It's hard to imagine.
It was an incredible process, but it led to 1994.
The first democratic election.
The first time every person of every race could vote. And Nelson Mandela was elected the country's first black president.
And when you look back, the Soweto Uprising is seen as that decisive turning point. The shockwave from what those teenagers did on June 16, 1976, it ignited the whole country and forced the world to act.
It really did.
Today, South Africa celebrates Youth Day every June 16th to honor them. And the Hector Peterson Memorial Museum is there to tell their story.
It's a powerful reminder that when a new generation decides to stand up, they have this incredible power to demand justice and completely change the course of history.
It took 18 more years, but at the end of the day, the students of Soweto won.
Good luck with your studies.